Hey everyone, this is my first time trying this, so bear with me as I work all the kinks out and whatnot. Uh, I thought it'd be more adequate to do it here in my little man cave jam room than typically how people do it in their car. You know, they're sitting in the front seat, they got the little camera there, they're drinking their venti Starbucks white mocha, you know, eating a greasy Five Guys hamburger. I don't want to do that. If that's your thing, that's cool. But I find that it's always cheesy to me. Like when people are in their car, like ranting, like, "Oh my God!" It's like, pay attention. You're driving. You're manning an automobile. Pay attention. Like, get off your phone. So I find that cheesy. Anyway, um, I just wanted to lay it out there straight. I'm 44 years old. Been doing a lot of self-reflecting lately, and I just wanted to share. Just lay it out there. It's pretty tough being in your 40s. If any of you can relate, people that are my age and my generation, we're kind of at this bizarre crux in our timeline where we're kind of that last generation, you know, growing up in the 80s. We're that last generation that knew life completely before smartphones and all this AI and all the technology. I was 20 years old when 9/11 happened. So we're that generation that remembers the old world, quote unquote, versus the new world. Because we can all see it coming. Life, whether you believe in the singularity or not, the next few decades are going to be a very crazy time. Life is going to change tremendously. Society, and I've been thinking these kids, young kids, like these 21-year-olds, these 19-year-olds that come into my workplace and work with me. These kids are looking up to us, people my age, in 40s, 50s, 60s. They're looking at us and they're watching us, really seeing what we're doing, seeing how we react to things, how we fluctuate with the economy, you know. And older people, the way we're looking at the younger people now, these kids, people in their 60s and 70s are looking at us in our 40s, kind of to the same degree that we look at these young guys like, what are they going to do? How are they going to lead the country? How are they going to lead the world? How are they going to keep these social norms in place if they do at all? And every now and then when those kids look up from their smartphones, they can really see us. And same thing with the older people looking at us. We look up from our smartphone. Hey, I see you, One problem I find, one thing in my 40s I've learned, you really have to learn how to have a sense of who you are, who you really are. In your 20s and 30s, you're working on your career, you're working on college, having some fun and being young and wild a little bit too. But you're focused on like the future when you're in your 20s and 30s. You're kind of working out the kinks. And then when you get in your 40s, it's kind of this bizarre time where it's a weird analogy, but hear me out. It's kind of like we're in the 7th grade of adulthood. You remember like when you're in middle school and you're at that point where you remember clearly being a kid. You're still kind of a kid. You like to go home and play with action figures and stuff, kind of go out and ride your bike. But then you're accepting that in the next few years you're going to be driving a car, you're going to have a job, you're going to become an adult. So 7th grade is that period of time, or middle school rather, where you're kind of at that crossroads there, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and you don't always have all the answers. There's no guidebook really. A lot of it's trial and error, you learning from your mistakes, making mistakes, making successes, the whole amalgamation of it. So in your 40s, like at least where I am right now at 44, I'm kind of in that middle school era of my adulthood where I'm still learning a lot of things, and you should always learn things, but it's like I still have the mind of like a 19-year-old to a lot of degrees as far as like my maturity, and then I'm trying to set myself up to like who I really want to be. You have to have a sense of purpose, a sense of self. You have to really, in your 40s, I think you have to really focus hard on knowing who exactly you are. Because you're not in your 20s and 30s and you're going through that minutia of finding out what you want to do with your life and save up some money and all that. I'm at the age now where I have to really know who I am. I have to know what my goals are, what my zeal for life is, what my hobbies are, who I can really focus. I have time now to focus on who I am. Like, who am I? Who am I as Tim? Who are you? Who is she? Like, you have to really, at this middle-aged part of your life, figure out who you are, because if you don't know who you are yet, or you're at least not working hard to figure it out, you're never going to be at peace. And there's a Carl Jung quote: "Peace is the greatest form of currency you will ever have." And that's always resonated with me. And, as a Christian, I have a lot of joy because I have a belief in an afterlife, and, it gives me a sense of morality. It gives me a moral compass, if you would, so to speak. I find my joy in God, so it's something above myself. So I know that I'm not perfect. It helps me accept that there's a lot of imperfections with not only me, but with people in general. We're all human. So I just wanted to share that you're not alone. If you think you're alone, if you're middle-aged, I don't know if I coined this term, but, we all know that trite phrase, midlife crisis, I don't have a midlife crisis, really. I don't want to go out and get a cherry red Lamborghini. I don't want to go crazy and run around and, go get like 12 gym memberships and, completely change my life. But what I like to think of is midlife maturity. I'm going through a midlife maturity. And I think a lot of you that are in my age range probably have that same thing going on. Some of you may not have kids, you're just now trying. Some of you may have grandkids. My kids are still kind of youngish, middle school age. We've come full circle with that. And so I'm at a point now where my kids are older, and that has depended on me as far as like changing diapers and teaching them how to do a lot of things. Like they have a little bit more independence now. So that's given me more independence to kind of know how to navigate my life. Anyway, I'm going to turn this off now. This isn't official. This is just me practicing. Thanks.